Barack Obama, Steven Tyler, Joe Biden, Michelle Obama, have you had personal sexual experiences with these people?
Yes.
These people participated in sex abuse firsthand with you?
Yes.
Riverside County Child Protective Services was involved in my trafficking. Ever thought that we would see the day where Diddy would get arrested? And I told you guys in that Maria Z interview in 2021 that no one tells on Diddy. P. Diddy.
Welcome back, loved ones. Happy Saturday. Hope you have a blessed weekend ahead. Guys, we are headed into some current events, and I'm not mad about it. The last 2 episodes, woof. Today is going to be more podcast style. I will be featuring some bits and pieces of Cassie's affidavit, a couple photos here and there, but I just wanted to pop on here today and release this video to you because I personally discovered some new information. A victim has come out and she's been speaking out for multiple years against celebrities, politicians, and Diddy has been name dropped.
We are talking about children being sold. Evil blood money.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the dots from where we left off, and then we're going to actually get into this young lady's story and bring some awareness to that. If you're listening in on Dark Diaries by Chelsea J, welcome. So last episode, we covered Kim Porter and Sarah Chapman. We discovered that Sarah Chapman had a baby in early 2006, and Kim Porter ended up having twins at the end of the same year in 2006. Kim ended up finally leaving Diddy for good. It's said that it was over the affair that he had with Sarah Chapman. Personally, I think that she had just been through too much with this guy. So she ended up breaking it off. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that the relationship had fully ended with Kim Porter before Diddy had already started a new relationship with a woman named Cassie. Her real name is Cassandra Ventura, and that was by 2007. Studying this guy's life, I'm stressed. I'm stressed out. This guy has no breaks. He just keeps going one person to the next and to the next. And it just makes it more disturbing, the fact that he continues to have children. He gets children involved. It's like, throw some money at the women and get right on with your life. Throw some money at your kids too. Do bad things, throw some money at it, make it all go away. Just money, money, money. Speaking of money, I'm sure that you've seen the name Cassie associated with the name Diddy. It's kind of old news because she went to sue him about a year ago, November 16th of 2023 to be exact. Guess what? Money. That's what. Money. Enough of it was used to settle outside of court with Cassie. She ended up dropping the lawsuit with prejudice a day later. Seriously, she filed and then within 24 hours it was settled. But she didn't just go for Diddy. She went for Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC. She went for his bread and butter, which if you recall with John Paul Miller, remember how he would get so defensive of people going after his church because being a pastor was his cover? When John Paul Miller's wife, Micah Francis, mysteriously committed suicide in the woods of North Carolina, right before they were headed to court for finalizing the divorce, and all of this abuse was going to come out against Pastor John Paul Miller of Solid Rock Church. Similar pattern here. In that case, people within John Paul Miller's church of Solid Rock, they knew what was happening, or they simply pretended, I didn't know about that. John Paul Miller's sex addiction, bags of cash that he had from a bar that he owned, a bar that a pastor owned, drugging his wife up and watching her hook up with men for his pleasure on a late Saturday night, just to head into church on a Sunday and tell his congregation that we all need to do better as Christians. Yeah, Micah Francis was going to tell all, and then she killed herself, they say. Yeah, convince me that a loving woman named Micah Francis, who was excited to move on from her abusive pastor husband, seriously did that. Convince me that Diddy didn't have people killed who were going to bring down his industry. The industry that would expose he was abusive physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually to every woman in some way. The industry to which he clearly ran a trafficking ring. Right now, it appears that it's sex trafficking. But I wouldn't put it past this guy to have his hands in some other types of trafficking too. His victim, his ex-girlfriend Cassie, was so traumatized it took her years for her to come forward and talk about this, to actually gain the courage to file against him. From 2016, when she broke away from him, all the way to 2023. That's how long it took for her to say, you know what, I'm ready. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to say what I went through with him for 10 years. And then boom, 24 hours after she filed, it's settled. 30 million is what I heard. Now, if you read the affidavit that she filed, and I'll leave a link down below, it is incredibly well done. It explains how Diddy sucked her into a 10-album deal in order to sign with his label. That's a long time to be under someone's thumb to do business. Cassie hit success with the Billboard charts with her first record alone. She became a celebrity, which made her vulnerable because it was moving fast. She was about 20 years old with a man in his late 30s glorifying her the whole climb. Diddy pretended to take her under his wing in favor of her success, offering support to not only her career, but to her as a person also. But on her 21st birthday, he used her day to force a kiss on her. She said it scared her because I don't think she saw him in that way at that time. She's so young, you know, it's her day. But he planted one on her. But like many abusers do, they become your everything as they begin to groom you and target you. And once you go along with being their target and allowing them to insert themselves furthermore into your life for longer periods of time, the deeper in it you are. And they don't just insert themselves into your life, they insert themselves into a power position in your life while you're vulnerable, so you end up dependent. And it makes you think twice when they start finally crossing those lines. If you really want to think about leaving a situation, you know, you think to yourself, I don't know if this is a good idea, you know, maybe they didn't mean it. Well, these are your red flags when that happens. That is exactly when a victim starts ignoring the red flags. They excuse the red flags and the abuse in order to keep their life intact. So she knew it made her uncomfortable how he started to insert himself and he kissed her and all that, but she ended up keeping it to herself because her career was on the line. Remember, she signed a 10-album deal. Additionally, Diddy ended up getting really pissed off with her when she brought her boyfriend to the awards ceremony to celebrate her success. He said that her boyfriend couldn't be there. By 2007, he took Cassie out and he got her high. He then paid for her a flight to Miami away from her boyfriend where he could isolate her, where he kept her intoxicated and drugged her up to the point where she feared Diddy enough that she didn't want to lose sight of keeping him happy for the sake of her career. But she also couldn't consent to much, being that drugged and intoxicated. It was very heavy for her, and they ended up hooking up. Obviously, it's safe to say with the discomfort that she was already discovering with him, how he's weeding out her boyfriend and starting to introduce her to addiction, and he put her on a flight and took her away. Had she been home sober around her loved ones, she wouldn't have consented. That's what I believe. However, after that, it was easier to gravitate toward Diddy as he would carry wads of cash and he would tell her, don't worry about money. I got money. He expensed lavish vacations for him and Cassie, purchased a car for her, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. Around 2008 or 2009, Diddy began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for Cassie. The apartment was within walking distance of Diddy's residence. See the control? This was inserting himself much deeper than that of a career. It's now insertion into Cassie's personal life, into every aspect of her life now. Not only business, but personal. And this becomes very dangerous for Cassie. The more he gives and she takes, the worse it will get. Her parents felt pretty weird about this when he ended up getting her that first apartment, by the way, and that's pretty telling when your friends and your family start to notice things like that. And then he also did this same thing, the same exact thing, in Los Angeles, California. He hooked her up with an apartment, and then he made sure that it was within walking distance of his residence out there as well. Another new car, and then it started to become where he was paying for her makeup artists to come on and her hairdressers when she would go out and perform or when she was like on the red carpet. Eventually, he ended up just completely owning her life. To her medical records. He would have her medical records emailed over to him. Naturally, there was motive. That means in his mind, she owed him to be his punching bag, to be his sex slave, his drugged up ragdoll. He started beating her. He would book her up in hotels and wait for her injuries to heal so nobody knew about the abuse. She started losing her memory between all the drugs, alcohol, partying lifestyle, and the emotional and physical abuse. So Roger Bonds, who was Diddy's security guard, we've had him on episode 2. He was talking. He was giving information about things that he saw. He ended up literally witnessing her get beat really bad by Diddy. I'm really glad that these people, Roger and Jean, have decided to come out and be on the good side and speak against Diddy. But it's a little hard for me because, this abuse would go on and on and on. Because eventually people saw it and Diddy knew that, but nobody was doing anything about it. This incident that Roger Bond saw Cassie get her ass kicked, Cassie was hurt really bad. It said that Roger tried to stop it. And I get that. I credit the guy for that, but it's just hard for me. She ended up having to go into hiding to heal for several days because she was so messed up. I was a victim of DV myself in the past. Not to this level, but I was. I think for me, when I read this affidavit, I've had to disassociate a little bit and keep it facts, since I know that she got out and she's in a much better place. It's kind of like what I hang on to when I read stuff like this. I know she's in a much happier, blessed, peaceful place in her life. But the minute that reading stuff like this becomes really hard and very real and personal for me is when I choose to remind myself about the time that her parents felt that bad energy, something was off when Diddy hooked her up with her first apartment. And I remember that is their daughter. I end up imagining being the mother that I am, waking up one day, I'm a mom, my daughter's out there, she's making a life for herself. I make my coffee, I go to my gym, I live my day. And my daughter being in hiding all alone with her injuries. And she can't tell me about it. It wrecks me and becomes very personal when I think of it like that these are real people. They are really sisters, daughters, a friend, and that things like this really, really did happen under Diddy, and that his victims got really, really traumatized and hurt, and nobody did anything about it for those people that were around and saw it or knew it was going on. Page 15, line 70. While in the hotel, she asked if she could go home to her parents, but Mr. Combs wouldn't let her. She lied to her mother when she was asked about an online gossip forum that reported the assault. Line 73. She got used to it and she disassociated. Then he trafficked her. Page 16, line 79 in the affidavit. It would last for days. He called them freak-offs. He told her that it was their secret. He drugged her up and he lined her up with men and enjoyed himself watching her get used by other men before his very eyes. And he liked it. He took footage of the encounters and shamed her by showing her that the footage that he took of her would never go away. It was a forever thing. She tried to delete it, and he would tease her and shame her and bring it back and say, see, this isn't going anywhere. August 2015. She was in the middle of her 29th birthday. In case you haven't noticed, this guy has a pattern of taking attention from anyone else back onto himself. He instructed her in the middle of her 29th birthday to attend the freak-off. He wanted her that moment to do it for him. Drop everything, even her big day. She said no, and his staff ended up intimidating her, it said, to go with Diddy and do it anyway. She started to get ill before the freak-offs because she was so scared and anxious to do these things against not just her will, but his will. She went against her will at the will of Diddy to do what he wanted, how he wanted it, when he wanted it. Page 20, line 104 and 105. She tried to leave, but his staff was sent to lure her back to him. She had to go back so many times, and so many more times he beat her up. And on one occasion, I believe what I understood from the affidavit, it was so bad that he ended up having to just send her to hiding in his own home. While she was there healing, he FaceTimed her and he said, you got to go up and put on more makeup. I don't want my son to see you like that. Everyone in Diddy's world knew that he was beating the crap out of Cassie, and they did nothing to spare themselves and their paychecks. In or around March of 2016, during one of their freak-offs out in LA, Diddy became extremely intoxicated and he punched her in the face, which gave her a black eye. After he fell asleep, she ended up trying to leave the hotel room. But as she exited, he woke up and began screaming. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while he was yelling at her. He grabbed her and then he took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her, causing glass to crash around them as she ran into the elevator to escape. She managed to get into the elevator, and when she got in the lobby, she quickly took a cab to her apartment. Upon realizing that running away would cause Diddy to be even angrier with her, she continued to stick with this completely insane cycle. She ended up returning to the hotel with the intention of apologizing to spare her life. I'm sorry I ran away from you when you were sleeping because I'm scared of you and you hit me. When she returned, however, hotel security staff urged her to get back in the cab and go to her apartment, suggesting they had seen the security footage of what he did to her. Upon information and belief, it's said that Diddy paid $50,000 to get rid of that. He's got a lot of patterns, right? He crashes birthdays. He beats every woman. He takes on little boys, sends Usher to the hospital. Justin Bieber's traumatized. It's the same thing. He's got certain ways that he operates. For example, $50,000. He seems like he drops that number a lot when he wants to get out of trouble. I noticed that he dropped $50,000 as an offer in 1999 to the cab driver when him and J-Lo were fleeing. He's like, here's $50,000 to say the gun is yours. In September of 2018, when she went to go meet him for the last time to get their affairs in order and they were going to break up and they were going to kind of end things, allegedly he agreed to this. He knew what it was about and everything went fine. It said, until the end of the night. He forced himself into the house when they went to depart, and he violently raped her. Page 24, line 135, she left him, even returning the items he had given her. Security items. This wasn't just like some bracelets, some diamonds, I need a car, so I'll just give him back the jewelry. It wasn't like that. She gave back the car, and she walked away from the things that he was renting out to her. Her own security. To get out of that. Line 137, she took all steps possible to entirely remove herself from the abuser's ambit, including by entering into contracts to end her record deal with Bad Boy Entertainment. As a result, from all that, 10 years of that, she struggled with thoughts of suicide, trauma, anxiety, addiction. Her relationship with loved ones suffered. She lost friends. She had to start her career over, but she's credited her beautiful kids for giving her hope to carry on. She spent years recovering from this. Now, within the affidavit, there was a listing about her relationship with another artist named Kid Cudi. She had some kind of friendship with Kid Cudi, and Diddy was really mad about it because when they were on the outs, she ended up, I guess, seeing Kid Cudi for some time. Well, during one of the freak-offs that Diddy initiated, he would use her cell phone, he would use her laptop, he would use her electronic devices to record these things on occasion. So it's, to my assumption, if I understood the affidavit correctly, he somehow got into her information in the computer and found email exchanges between herself and Kid Cudi from that time. He became enraged, and he proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers, and he lunged at Miss Ventura, at Cassie. Come on, does that sound familiar? This is exactly what Kim Porter did to him when she cut his right wrist. We talked about this in the last episode, and Gene Deal was amazed. He's like, what does it take for someone to take a corkscrew and do something like that? To have to cut somebody with a corkscrew to get your point across. Ironically, right? That'd been done to Diddy. It affected him. He said he could have lost his career from it. He guilted Kim Porter for doing that. And then he tried to do it to Cassie. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, Diddy got mad about Kid Cudi, and he threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. And Kid Cudi's car blew up in his driveway, and it wrecked the relationship between Kid Cudi and Cassie. No surprise there. She lost another friend. It was too much for him. He could have died. Roger Bonds said that after that particular incident, he ended up leaving. Gene Deal left because Janice Combs was a wacky, crazy person that was continuing to try to have power and control and get with Gene Deal, according to his story. After that, Roger Bonds left. He decided he was going to go join somewhere else because he said the situation caught up with him, and he ended up using his diabetes to say that he just needed to find something else. After Cassie filed and settled, the video footage aired, and that's when Diddy came out with an apology on what happened.
So difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for His mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
It's the head drop for me at the end. That shows how pathetic he is. Also, in the first video that I ever released on this case, he was talking about how God was a female. I don't know if you guys were able to see that, but now suddenly he's praying to a man for his grace and his mercy. Now I'm going to conclude this content with an additional victim that came out. And her name is Allison Leilani Carter, and she goes by Allie. Now Allie comes from a place where she talks about, yes, Diddy, but she also talks about politicians, CPS, Hollywood, the feds. Like, she is a tell-all, hold back nothing kind of woman. She talks about corruption within our system, and it might leave you feeling a bit fearful and discouraged, but please be encouraged by the truth. Because if this is the truth, what she's saying, and sadly, I believe it, I think it's possible that this is completely true, then we should be talking about it, and we should be able to stay aware of it. You know, my family live in California. I'm headed to Los Angeles next weekend with my family, my kids included. She talks about trafficking rings in Los Angeles. So I'm going to read from an affidavit that she put out there earlier this year and let her voice come through so you can hear how far this goes, given the fact that Diddy is name dropped in it, but especially given the fact that politicians are name dropped in her testimony as well. Other bigger celebrities, like, you will be amazed. So your discretion is advised. Trigger warning, this is extremely disturbing. Affidavit goes against Brian Christopher Williams, aka Birdman, Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. It is said that Denzel Washington has yelled at Diddy. They got into some kind of tiff at one of Diddy's parties. It's said that Denzel and his wife have had nothing to do with Diddy ever since. Then Diddy is listed in this, and then Young Jock. She talks right here about one of the kings of comedy who wore a gold chain was complaining that he just did an hour set and there was nobody to mess around with or pleasure himself with backstage. This comedian broke the no anal sex rule and had anal sex with me anyway, and he laughed. I screamed for my handler and everybody was laughing, but I kept getting in trouble. I was told to get intimate with a girl on the table my age, and this was a minor at the time. Then they brought in donkeys and burros, and we had to get intimate with the animals. There were several girls that had to get intimate with the creatures while everyone watched. Another girl and I ended up throwing up afterward, and they rubbed our faces in each other's vomit as punishment. At this party, there were body cakes, which means that children, you guys, kids, would lie on the table and people put food on them, and the partygoers would eat off the children with no clothes. There were a lot of celebrities at this party. Once everyone was searched and inside, the DJ sounded the music and the lights flashed, signaling that everyone was in, and the doors were closed. They signaled that the pleasuring amongst many people could begin, and the kids that had been brought to the party were also bought to be party favors. Favors means that kids are literally set on a table and had to wait for people to come and choose them for intimacy. Once they were done with intimacy with the children, the kids were placed back on the party favor table, and someone else could then come and pick them out from the table and repeat the same process. I had to be intimate with so many people that night that I could not remember them all, and some of the other alters hold those memories, which means that she was disassociating. She says that there were fetishes, and they're gross. They're really bad. There's one that says being intimate with red body fluids in one area, while others were getting intimate with animals in another area, so it wasn't just the kids. People were in a crazed and sexual frenzy. When the music started, I was sitting on the table. There were so many different sexual things going on at this party.
I was letting my social workers know, and they told me to stay quiet. They told me that if I told anybody else, that I would be shipped off to Arizona and no one would ever find me again. And everybody is so worried about the elite, and we could give those names of Barack Obama, Joe Biden. We know about Michelle Obama, that's a man. We know about Too Short. We know about Akon and Steven Tyler, and we can give those names all day. And everybody is so worried about that. But what you should be worried about is the people that are in between, the people that go as low as your grave diggers. I was trafficked to people within my schools. I was trafficked in underground tunnels that link under your schools, through your cemeteries, under your amusement parks, through Universal Studios, and into Hollywood elite homes, all over the place, all over the world. And people don't understand that, and they can't fathom that, and they can't put that together. But if you think about the things that have come out lately, and there's 200 children missing, and there's 300 children missing, what Amber Alert did you receive? How many times do you receive an Amber Alert every year? And if you think about that, how many children are coming up in your face that have been tortured and abused like this? It exists and it's real. And people don't want to face it. It happens in your schools every day, as your grave diggers, your trash men. Everybody is involved, but everybody is looking at the top, and that's just a small percentage. And you really need to look at the people in between.
So the names that you just mentioned, Barack Obama, Steven Tyler, Joe Biden, Michelle Obama, have you had personal sexual experiences with these people?
Yes.
These people participated in abuse firsthand with you?
Yes.
Can you tell that story? Because that's important for people to understand.
No, because everybody is complicit. Everybody is complicit. It is covered up by your local FBI. It is covered up by your local police department. It is underground tunnels. There's a whole world. It's a different way of life. There's every source of transportation. When I met Joe Biden, I was rushed through many celebrities. Half of them I did not know. It didn't faze me to see them. It didn't. Some of them were actually very conceited and cocky that I didn't know who they were. Underground, under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, there are many tunnels. Again, there's a way of transportation. There's every single way of transportation under the ground. I was sold to Joe Biden multiple times. Sometimes people don't talk about it, because when you don't talk about it, it makes it okay. When you don't talk about it, it makes you bury it. When you don't talk about it, it's easier, and it kills that part of you.
I went into foster care at 13, 14. We tried to do a case against Riverside County Child Protective Services because Riverside County, do you hear me? Riverside County Child Protective Services was involved in my trafficking. I never thought that we would see the day where Diddy would get arrested. And I told you guys in that Maria Z interview in 2021 that no one tells on Diddy. P. Diddy. All right? Just the same way nobody tells on Denzel Washington. We're still not on the subject of the kids. All the adults are covering their asses. All the adults are, I left at a certain time, yet you knew children were there. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. It wasn't just adults in these parties. The adults were responsible for the child that were in the party. And one of those children were me. Now, those who are trying to come at us now, talking like, oh, well, now the Diddy's out, now that you can talk. For why? Because we tried to have a case with Child Protective Services. We gave them 8 months worth of evidence. 8 months worth of evidence. That didn't even do a crumb. They took that case and they hid it. If you are a survivor and if you are a real victim, be careful. Because these hotline numbers that they're putting out, I don't trust them. I wouldn't do it.
They take your information to see what you have.
They're taking inventory.
And then they shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking inventory. So don't trust them. Any attorney that's taking money to defend Diddy, you're nasty and vile.
That's blood money.
That's blood money.
That's all blood money. You do know that, right? Whether you take money from him to shut up, whether you take money from him for period, that's blood money. I don't want anybody's money. There's no witness protection program because how well is the Secret Service doing protecting your former president? They not even doing their damn job. Even the photographer can get the shot, and including the people that can get the shot. Let's be real. But it's only talked about when it's trending. We got legal evidence to drop. I just don't know what's the point. I was at a Diddy party. I was one of the party favors. But I told you, nobody tells on Diddy. Maria Z, I did that interview in 2021. 7 months ago. We made sure, I already knew, that Diddy and Oprah is about to get arrested. I already knew that 7-8 months ago. We went and made sure there were sworn documents. We have them. I'm not the only one. There are too many victims. Victims that you don't even know their name. Victims that you'll never hear their laugh. Victims that you'll never know who the hell they were because everybody was so busy bouncing to their music.
Let's be clear. You federal prosecutors, You have video surveillance from Diddy's house from back from 2008. Look in that 2008, 2010 span, you'll find her video there. You want to send it? Send it over? She'll say, yeah, that's me. Then you can do what you can do, but otherwise we're not messing with you.
Yes, my pinky's broken. For those who keep circulating this picture of this girl with a broken pinky, yeah, my pinky's broken. It was broken at 12 years old when I tried to fight back, and that didn't work. So there's a lot of parts of my body that pops and locks and shit because a lot of people started tying me up, and I'm really small. If you've ever met me, I'm really, really small. So people used to use me a lot for baby jobs. So people used to use me a lot for party favors. That party favor that I was on the table, I wore wigs too. So if you want to turn those videos around, I have a wig on. But yeah, my pinky's broken, and so is my toe pinky. There's a reason for that.
If you're a truther, you need to look up party favor effect as it relates to Diddy's freak-offs.
This is not just one problem. This is decades worth of an issue. You know that, right? Hopefully it's not going to be a slap on the wrist and then he kills himself and then he sit in the jail cell and everybody goes back to putting their head in the sand. Hopefully people understand that this is not about an election because the election is canceled because everybody is on the list. Let me tell you something. They make sure in those parties that they have blackmail evidence. So if they go down, they taking everybody down with them. I pray to God that this is the day. I pray to God that this is the time, because all the victims deserve some type of justice, and it's just a matter of taking accountability and somebody saying, we are fucking sorry that we didn't hear you guys forever ago. There are people who are dead. There are babies who have lost their lives because nobody was listening. And now everybody, I want to listen. You are late. You're fucking late.
This woman has been trying to say this for years, and nobody's been listening. Are we listening now? I don't think we really know exactly how deep this all goes, but I believe in her, and I believe that we have to start paying attention. This isn't just celebrity headlines. This is real information. This is the foster children. These are our children. This is our family's safety at risk. I'll leave Cassie's affidavit down below if you want to be able to see some of that for yourself. There were details that I left out because, YouTube wouldn't let me read about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will be seeing you next time for more information on the Diddy series. Be blessed, loved ones. Have a great week. I'm Chelsea J.